I got nobody but me online, but that's okay. See if they join. All right, so last week, 30-second recap, right? We talked about the different possibilities of what the sin was, right? What is cutting off the shoots? Is it dissuading people from Torah? Is it actually murdering young children? It's pretty harsh. And then we discussed some of the reasons why he might have gone off the derech. Today, what we're going to do is discuss, right? Those were, and it's weird how the Gemara is set up. Those were sections A and C in the Yerushalmi. So it's almost like they're interspersed, but B and D are Rabbi Meir's interactions with Acher. And it almost seems like they're just fundamentally like from different universes.
What?
Different universes. Like, so as we go through, I want to see how the Gemara is structured, what it means, what the relationship is, but really then what does it tell us about Acher and how does it relate to last week? Is actually a very difficult question, which you might not have a good answer for. But let's go one step at a time. And right, the primary section, which is the first section in the Aramaic, which is the bottom of and then most of the second page in the English. And again, we're going to stick to the English. It's more user friendly, but I do have the Gemara there for you in the Rishalmi. This is what we'll call from Meir and Acher outside the Beis Medrash, and the next scene is on Acher's deathbed as he's about to leave this world. I am recording, and I have posted the source sheet in the chat, so we're good on all cylinders. As I said that, I'm going to make sure. No, stop recording. I'm good. Awesome. Okay. The opening scene, right, should throw us immediately. Right, so if you look again, there you have the source sheets again in your chat. Rav Meir was sitting and expounding in the house of study in Tiberias, right? In the Beis Medrash in Tiberia, there is Rav Meir. Rav Meir is, right, basically giving shiur. Right? He is literally in the middle of giving a class in the Beis Medrash in Tiberia. All right, his master Elisha passed by riding on a horse on Shabbos. Right, so Elisha ben Avuya, who is Acher, right, he is our heretic. So he comes by, he's literally riding on a horse past the Beis Medrash on Shabbos. Right, that is not good. Right, that's in your face, stick it to you. Right, I'm literally, right, it was like if I was to drive past the shul in my, with my convertible on the top down, and I just drive past shul waving at you. That's essentially what he's doing. As he comes by the Beis Medrash, and they come and say to Rav Meir, "Behold, your master is outside." Right? Harabcha levar. Right? Your Rebbe is outside. Now, what would you expect to happen next? What should happen? What's the proper response? Yeah, get lost. Tell him to keep riding. Right? Tell him to hit. Yeah. At this point, if I drove by the shul on Shabbos in a convertible, would I still be your rabbi?
No.
I'm just asking. I mean,
no, maybe you're on a pikuach nefesh trip. We don't know.
We give you the benefit of the doubt.
We give you the.
That's very kind of you. Let's say I'm eating a McDonald's sandwich at the same time, just to show you I'm sticking it to you.
Well, maybe the doctor told you need McDonald's.
You're way too nice. You're too nice. I'm not so nice, right? But I'm not planning on driving past the shul on Shabbos. But
Which way do you go?
but right?
It's a one way.
No, it's a one way, right? Meaning, essentially, we should tell him I'm giving shiur. It's not bothering me. Get out of here. Leave me alone. That would be right. Keep on the horse and have a good time. So now I've already skipped one fascinating piece, which is they come in and they announce Acher as who?
Your Rebbe.
His Rebbe.
His Rebbe, right? Rabcha levar. Your master is outside. Your master is Rabcha, right? Your Rebbe. So now they're still referring to Elisha ben Avuya as Rav Meir's Rebbe, and he's outside. And then unbelievably, what does Rav Meir do?
About share.
What?
Who's the they? I mean, it may
One of
be,
the students, whoever it
well,
is.
no, the students would be in his class.
He's the bum smoking outside.
So,
Not on
I-
Shabbos, chas v'shalom. No, but whoever's outside comes in and, they tell him, listen, right? Your Rebbe is on the horse outside, right? That sentence alone should make our head spin. If you're on the horse, you can't be the Rebbe. Can't be. Right? It doesn't work. And nevertheless, that tension is literally laid out at the outset of our Gemara. He's violating Shabbos, but he says Rebbe. Right? Which means, is he out of the camp or in the camp?
He may be out of the camp, but by the same token, he did a lot of great things before. So he's still his Rebbe. So he's still the master, he's still the teacher, even though he's gone off the derech.
So unfortunately, right? I mean, I think you're right, Jim, but unfortunately, this in the last 20 to 30 years, most of the play that Acher gets is in discussing terrible, hideous rabbis who have done very bad things and whether we can still learn their Torah.
Of
Right?
course, that's the point.
No, but
don't
it's not
don't
the point, meaning
don't throw away the good with the bad, right?
I would throw Barry Freundel right into the ocean. I wouldn't think any of it's good. Right? He put up a camera in the women's mikvah in Washington, D.C. Nobody should be learning Barry Freundel's Torah. I think to me that's a no-brainer. He's gone. Right? You forfeited your right for me to learn your Torah. What?
I agree.
Lashon hara? What do you mean?
But putting aside the whole notion of where this ultimately goes,
Oh, I mean that's
then, hold on. But ultimately, where this ultimately goes, that there's still hope. He could still do tshuva at this point. At this point, so there's the hope that he does tshuva and he gets restored
yes,
to what he does.
Not his Rebbe, meaning everyone should call Barry Freundel Barry or something worse. Nobody should call him. I'm not saying what the words should be. There are a lot of words that might come to mind. Rabbi is not one of them. I think you forfeit that title when you do something terrible. Now, I'm not saying riding a horse on Shabbos we shouldn't compare that to bugging the women's mikvah. I mean, that's a whole different level of bad. Right? Certainly better you should be on a horse on Shabbos. But the fact, Jan, that we might want him to do tshuva and whether or not he can do tshuva will actually come up later in this Gemara. Is he his Rebbe or is not? I think it's startling and striking that he is called his Rebbe.
But
I think so.
He's also referred to that before they speak. I mean, his master passed by, and then they said, your master's out there. So who's ever writing this is already interjecting the fact that he taught him. However,
Yes. Now what?
They didn't,
Yes. Remember that this is put in the Yerushalmi after the opinion that he has murdered young children. Right? That too. Right? How that connects, which is why I think last week I told you there's some disconnect between the pieces because there's no way he's Rabcha if he's literally murdered young children, and that is cutting off the shoots. But that again, that's the open.
The whole community is so corrupt, and it's like I mean, like
Well, but Rameir is not. Rameir actually retains his piety to the end. Right? Rameir doesn't turn bad.
As I said, if you're not doing anything about these,
But so you're still stuck on the practical. You got to get past the practical because this is not a practical Gemara. We're not concerned with why they didn't prosecute Acher, right? We are concerned with what pushes someone off the derech, how bad can somebody be, and can they come back? And in the interim, what is their place? Right now, there are different levels of bad. Barry Freundel, very bad. Menachem Elon, very bad. Right, there are others who are less bad, right? Riding a horse on Shabbos is the Rabbanan. You shouldn't do it. Very bad, but it's not like horrifically bad.
you're asking for who called who then, Rebbe?
Meaning they came and they called Elisha ben Avuya Acher. They come to a mayor and say, your Rebbe is outside. And he stops the shiur and he walks outside and he leaves all of his Talmidim and he engages in conversation with Rabbi Meir.
Well, but even if someone went off the derech, if they're referred to as your Rebbe, That's different than.
So
your
again,
rabbi,
when the kids were in Hillel, there was a rabbi in the school who shacked up with one of the non-Jewish secretaries. They ran up to Florida, right? That guy should lose his title, rabbi.
Right, but this, and what I'm
No.
saying is, say your Rebbe, right, like you had him in fifth grade, right? And today he does something terrible, it doesn't mean the person is still holding from him being his Rebbe.
No, but they
You'd say, oh, your Rebbe.
they
that's what I
they
do.
should come and say Acher is outside. How the Gemara chooses to refer to him is important.
They're giving him credit.
They're giving him cover. It should just be Acher, right? I think. Listen,
But he doesn't know yet that he did the bad thing.
it seems that they did. He rode on up on a horse.
Oh, he
there's-
saw him doing it,
Yeah, he rode. I mean, again, he rode up to the base measure on a horse. It's not good.
so then why'd they have to report it to him?
That's a good question, right? So that is this question: why does Reb Meir still care? Maybe he still holds out hope that he can bring him back. And we'll see actually a fundamental difference between the Yerushalmi and the Babli in that regard. But let's keep going in the story, right? He ceased his homily and he went out to him. I wish I was reading this in Aramaic because it sounds so much better. But okay, right? Pasuk lemin drasha and nafak legabe, right? He stopped his drasha, not his homily, and he went outside. And then he asks him, and now there's going to be a series of 3 limudim, where Elisha ben Avuya asks Reb Meir, what were you learning? And then there's a dialogue back and forth about it. So let's look at the first one. Okay, Elisha said to him, again, second paragraph in the English, what were you expounding today? And he said, the Lord blessed the latter days of Job's life more than the beginning. So if you look at the end, by the way, of the 3rd page, I did pull out these psukim in Hebrew. I think it's important to look at the psukim at least in Hebrew. If you look at, again, the end of the 3rd page, that's the second to last source. That is Eo Perak Mem Beis Pasuk Yud Beis, right? VaHashem beirach et acharit Eov meireshito, right? Hashem blessed the end of Eov's life more than the beginning. Vayihilo arba'a asar elef tzon, right? 14,000 sheep. That's a lot of sheep. Right, Sheshet alafim gemalim, 6,000 camels, elef tzemed, right, 1,000 yoke of oxen, right, tzemed bakar, elef atonot, and 1,000 female donkeys. That right, that's a good haul, right? That's a nice flock, right? Clearly, that pasuk refers to Hashem has blessed Eov with tremendous wealth at the end of his life, right? More than what he had in the beginning. Right? Remember the story of Eov? He has the great stuff, he loses it at the end. He gets it back. Okay?
So that's very relevant here, because there's a guy who's angry.
Very relevant.
Injustice.
Yeah,
what's
very,
going on.
very relevant. Right? So let's see the interaction, and then we'll come back to that point. Right? He says to him, how did you begin it? Right? When did you start teaching? And he says to him, the Lord gave Job twice what he had before Job, that he doubled his money. Well, now I'll ask you the question. What did Reb Meir add to the pasuk?
How much he had to begin.
That he doubled.
Sorry,
That
trick
it's
question.
double.
Nothing. Meaning, yes, but essentially, is there a chiddush in what he says? No, the pasuk says money, and Reb Meir says, and he gets up and explains the pasuk, and he says, and he had more money than in the beginning. But the pasuk in Eov told me that, and therefore, right? Alas for things lost and not found. Right, Rifki, now that's really, right? Does that echo, are we now thinking about Acher, things lost and not found? Maybe. Akiva, your master, did not expound it like that, right? Meaning Rabbi Akiva. Yeah, this is Acher teaching, right? Acher is teaching Reb Meir how to darshan the pasuk, right? By telling him what Rabbi Akiva said. Akiva, your master, did not expound it like that. Rather, the Lord blessed the days of Job's life more than the beginning on account of the mitzvot and good deeds that he had done from the beginning. Right, now that is a drasha, because the pasuk is talking about one thing, money, and now we're expanding and expounding that it really also is talking about right, it is, if you look back in the pasuk for a moment, Vashem berach et achrit Eov, me reshito is not more than the beginning, but right, me reshito could also be from the beginning. Right, so that's the if you want the thumb twist, it's not simply that he has more than he did in the beginning. He is blessed now because of the beginning. Now, this is actually fascinating. How does that relate? Right? If you put that in the mouth of Rav Meir and Acher about Acher, which one's more positive for Acher? Second one, right? Which means Rav Meir shtoching him, and Acher is right. It's this double. Two things are happening here. One is how are we learning the pasuk, and the other is how does this actually relate to Acher? Right. Whereas Rav Meir says to him last, right, for things lost and not found, meaning you off the derech and you ain't coming back. Right. The horse is taking you that way, and we want you back that way.
Meir says the last for things lost and not
No.
found. Acher says
No, right.
Acher says the last for things lost.
Right. Not found. But then he flips it.
Well, maybe not. Maybe he said, look, this can happen if you do so much. If you do good at
Well,
the beginning, it can
it's
happen. But I've lost it. I've lost it.
But the drasha is redeeming, right? It's this that exact question of where does Acher fit in is captured there. He could be blessed because he did good things at the
Why
beginning.
is he saying,
Elisha,
but why is he saying alas? Alas, talking about him. He's
yeah.
talking about himself.
Well, which one?
Alas.
So I'm
He's
asking you,
saying-
which one is it? It's unclear.
I lost it. Saying, I think he's saying I lost it and I'm not getting it back because
Yes. So, but alas for things lost and not found is referring to what? Is referring to the fact that Rav Meir forgot the drasha from
on the
Rabbi
face of it.
Akiva.
Yeah, on the face of it.
On the well, yes, that's
Yes,
why there's
on the
two
face
levels of
it, yeah.
right. The brilliance of this
Really,
Gemara
it's-
is that there's two levels happening here.
I was there, and I'm no longer there now. I lost.
Yes, but then
I
read
can't
the
find it
but then
again.
he continues. I'm asking you, does he believe the first part or the second part? Or maybe we're not meant to know because we don't know where he stands. He says both of them. You can't ignore one and not the other. Right? He learns it differently. The Lord has blessed the latter days of Job's life more than the beginning on account of the mitzvot and good deeds he had done from the beginning. Does Elisha ben Avuya have good deeds from the beginning?
Yes.
You bet.
Yes.
But at the beginning, not necessarily from, I mean, depending on how one wants to interpret it. From the beginning means it continued on. At
No,
the beginning might just
no.
be,
But there's a big difference between him and Job. Job, Eob never lost faith. He never lost his faith. in
This,
Hashem.
there's nothing about this that we actually don't care about Eob at all. I promise you.
Okay.
This Gemara does not care a lick about Eob. This is about two things. At this point in the Gemara, who is the Rebbe and who's the student? Who does a better job explaining these psukim? No question. Acher is still the master, right? He's called the master and he's proving it in his drasha.
Yeah.
But the drasha itself is difficult to figure out, right? Goes this way, goes that way. Is it lost?
Well, in Eob's case, no.
Again, the same way we don't care about
Okay,
we don't care about the practicalities of how we persecute him. We don't care about Eob at all right now. Eob is irrelevant to this story. It's just a pasuk from Eob that we're using.
On the face of it, it is lost for Acher, isn't it? Acher's lost it on the face of it. He's riding the horse.
So yes, but he explains the pasuk in a way that reflects well upon it. So which one is it? I don't know.
Well,
It's a good
is he the
question.
master or is he not the master? Yeah,
Is he or is he not?
Is he the Rebbe or not? Okay.
Okay, that's pasuk number one. Let's keep going.
But you were very clear about it at the beginning.
What?
You were very clear at the beginning that riding on the horse, he's not the Rebbe.
But then he's called the Rebbe.
I know, no, but you were saying he should not be called the Rebbe riding on the horse. You were
Well,
very clear.
what
about
I'm saying is that's why it should shock us.
it. Yeah.
Yes, but they do call me in the Yerushalmi. He's called "Your Master Has Arrived," and in this first section, he's still the master. He's yeah.
The second one doesn't necessarily say he's gonna come back, it just says that he's gonna get blessed. And then you still have credit for what you did.
Right. So which means he's not.
He's not,
Which probably means he hasn't killed children, and it means there's some value left there's some vestige value left from Acher. He's not gone a lost cause. He's not alas for things lost and not found. That sounds very poetic. I like that. Maybe that line in English will keep. All right, let's go to the second pasuk. Let's see where we go from there. What else were you expounding? right? And then the end of a thing is better than its beginning. That is fancy for Kohelet. Because if you're an academic, you use a Q just to show that you're really fancy. But if you look at, it took me a while to figure that out, actually. It took me a little bit of time, like, wait a minute. Then I realized it was from Kohelet. So if you look now at the last source on the third page, right, you have that same, actually the same, similar, right, very similar pasuk. Tov acharit davar mereshito, better something at the end than the beginning. Tov erech ruach migva ruach, right, better to be, right, somebody who has a patient spirit than a haughty spirit. Okay, that's the pasuk. All right, and he says to him, right, how did you begin it, right? I mean, what were you teaching? He says to him, by comparing it to a man who had children in his youth, who died in his old age, who lived. Behold, the end of a thing is better than its beginning. Okay. B, by comparing it to a man who did business in his youth and lost money. In his old age, he earned it. Behold, the end of a thing is better than the beginning. By comparing it, turn the page. Oh, but there's a back. We conserve paper. We conserve paper at Brothers of Israel. I saved a piece of paper in each source sheet. I love the trees. I'm a tree hugger.
The budget is so
How
good now.
sustainable and how-
Yeah, I'm the tree. There actually is a guy who calls himself the tree hugging rabbi, but I won't tell you who he is because that's real Lashon Hara. Because I didn't say that favorably, and he's a really nice guy, so we don't want to put him down, right? With chas v'shalom. By comparing it to a man who learned Torah in his youth and forgot it, in his old age fulfilled it. Behold, the end of a thing is better than its beginning. Okay, at this point, so we're a little bit better. Does he do anything really special for this pasuk? Do the examples mean anything different than the pasuk itself?
No,
No, not really. Right? It's just okay. It's a little bit better because he's giving you 3 examples, but the 3 examples are the same thing.
Well, the last example is very pointed.
Well, yeah, very pointed, except that he hasn't forgotten anything. Right? It's Reb Meir who's forgetting, not Acher. Right? It's all these fascinating little. He says, "Alas for things lost and not found." Akiva, your master, did not expound it like this. Rather, the end of a thing is better than its beginning when it was good from its beginning. Right? You have to be good from the beginning, and then you'll be good at the end. But it's only good if you're good from the beginning. Right? And that again is me reshito, reading, not better at the end than at the beginning, but it's the same limud, me reshito, from the beginning. That it has to carry through, right? This is also somewhat autobiographically bad for Acher, because he started well, or maybe he didn't. So now keep reading. This is fascinating, right? This matter happened to me, right? Avuya, or Abuya, but that's Elisha ben Avuya, right? My father was one of the notables of Jerusalem. One day he was to circumcise. That's where it all starts bad. Invited all the notables of Jerusalem and seated them in one house. He invited Rebbe Lezer and Yeshua. He seated them in a separate house. When they were eating and drinking and singing and clapping and dancing, Rebbe Lezer said to Rebbe Yeshua, as long as they're busying themselves with their business, their own business, right, with the party, let's busy ourselves with ours. They sat and busied themselves with words of Torah. From the Torah to the prophets to the writings, the fire came down from the heavens and encircled them. Right, that was quite a scene. They were learning up not a storm. They were learning up a furnace or something. Yes, ablaze with excitement in learning Torah. Right? Avuya said to my masters, if you come to burn down my house upon me, they said to him, God forbid, but we were sitting and, right, turning words of Torah from the Torah to the prophets to the writings. The words rejoiced as when they were given at Sinai, and fire enveloped them as the fire enveloped them at Sinai. At Sinai, they were given primarily in fire, right? That's the pasuk in Devarim. The mountain was ablaze with flames to the very skies. Avuya, my father, said to them, my masters, if that is the power of Torah, if this son of mine prospers, I will dedicate him to Torah. Since his intention was not for the sake of heaven, therefore it did not prosper. Right? He was rotten from the beginning.
He was insincere.
Right, meaning he was in this not for Torah's sake, but for the power and the prestige and the honor that Torah brings.
But that's his father speaking.
And
It's
that's,
got nothing
that
to
is the,
do
that's the
with
path he
Acher.
put him on. Your father certainly has an impression, right? So that, if you remember, what was the third, right? The third option of why he went down the wrong path, right, was not because of theodicy or because of, because he saw that the Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava's tongue was cut out and he was distraught, but because his mother went past the house of Avodah Zarah and ruined him, right? This is his father educated him for the wrong reason. That magically passes through. You have to work with me. Right, but
Acher is saying
is telling this story.
that my father had the wrong intentions.
And that's why I am so messed up. Yeah, that's why I am who I am, because I was not good, mereshito. I was not good from the beginning. I was
I
rotten.
thought it says his reason, he says if he prospers.
Yeah, I mean, if he prospers, if he lives, right? I mean, if the kid becomes well, I'm going to dedicate him to Torah. But he
I thought prospers means makes money.
Yeah, I think the connotation of prosper might be wrong.
My son
Mikayem-
prospers, like if he
Mikayem
makes
is
money.
Yeah, so again, that's why
To exist.
that's why the Hebrew,
So you
yes,
say I'll dedicate him to
that
Torah.
is why the Hebrew is better.
So what's the Hebrew?
You just say if the son of Maria.
No, im kach hi kocha shel Torah, im niskayim liben hazel leTorah ani mafrisho. Right, I mean, again, not every child of that age survived. Right, the infant mortality rate 2,000 years ago was not good. I mean, the infant mortality rate at the beginning of the 20th century was extraordinarily high compared to today's standards. Imagine what it was 2,000 years ago. Right?
Why is that different than Hannah and Shmuel?
So Chana says, I'm going to dedicate him
dedicate
to
him to-
HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But to serve Hashem, not to get the prestige and power of Torah, not to have fire dancing around my head because I'm so awesome and powerful.
So his father is saying, I'll raise him up to compete with you guys.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
And just reading the story, yes. Right? But here too, who is the master? So Meir gets a little bit better. The master is still Acher until the third. He said to him, what else were you expanding? He says to him, let's make sure I didn't miss anything. So I haven't actually looked at my notes yet, which is not good. Still good. Right. Number 3. He said to him, gold or glass cannot match its value. Okay, that's the pasuk. That one's pretty much the same. I didn't need to put it in the Hebrew. Same conversation. How did you begin? He said the words of Torah, right, are as difficult to acquire as vessels of gold and as easy to lose as vessels of glass. Right? It's hard to get gold. It's easy to break glass. Just as if vessels of gold and vessels of glass are broken, one can return and make them vessels as they were. So a sage who forgets his Torah can return and learn it at the beginning. Is that a good drasha? That's a great drasha, right? It's beyond what the pasuk means, and it's directly messaged at Acher, right? Acher, you can come back. You can do this, right? You can refashion. Put the gold back in the kiln. Put the broken glass back in. Is the kiln the right word? Probably right.
Acher is saying this?
No, this is Rabbi Meir. This is Rabbi Meir saying it to Acher. And at that point, what is Acher's retort? He has none. He's got nothing to say. That's a good limud. So, but the story's not over. He says to him, enough, Meir. The Sabbath limit is up to this point. Right? Tchum Shabbos. So Tchum Shabbos is you get 2,000 amos outside of the city line. You cannot walk beyond it. Right? That's a halacha that everybody knows from cruise ships. Not from, but there were until the crazy construction boom in Lakewood, there were signs in Lakewood that said Ad Kan Tchum Shabbos. They had mapped the area, they had measured it out, and you couldn't walk past that point if you were coming from direction A. Right? So Acher says to Rabbi Meir, right, he doesn't respond to the drasha because he has very little to say. But he calls him out in something, right? You can't walk anymore. He's on the horse, he's walking. And he says to him, how do you know? He says, from the steps of my horse, which I have been counting. And he has walked 2,000 cubits. And he says to him, you have all this wisdom, yet you won't repent. Right? You won't go back. And he says, I can't. Right? He says to him, why? And he says, I was once passing by the holies of holy. This is a great story, right? Riding my horse on Yom Kippur that fell out on Shabbos. Just to really stick it to him. Not going past the base medrash now. I'm literally taking my horse past the Kodesh HaKodashim. That's not an affront to Rabbi Meir. That is an affront to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All right? That's a bad gesture to God. I heard a heavenly voice come out of the Holy and Holies and say, return, rebellious children, except Elisha ben Avuya, for he knew my power and rebelled against me. At this point, that's a fascinating way to end the story. Right? At some level, Reb Meir has grown and become the master, and yet Elisha ben Avuya is still so meticulous, so careful, and he doesn't want Reb Meir to violate, which again also contradicts last week, that he would, right, tell all the kids to go in, do these things to get, right, because clearly he cared.
Oh, is the assumption that they're walking along together while they're
Yeah.
talking? Right.
Yeah, they're walking along, and he
Yeah.
says, "Stop! You can't go any further." Right? He still cares for a mayor. He seems to like spitting in God's face with a horse. Right? He likes that a lot. He's very good at it. But at this point, we're left with. It seems like there's no repentance. It seems like Rav Meir, at some level, has bested him, but not fully. In the drasha, he bested him, but not in life, not in this particular example. And that is the interaction between them.
But it also seems like he's saying, Rabbi Meir, you have to keep on the path that you're on. It's the right path for you. For some reason, I've been excluded from this.
At
He's
some
not
level.
saying it's wrong. He's not saying it's untrue here. He's not saying I don't understand it in the sense that when I look at Shiloh HaKain and the incident with the child and all that,
Right.
this makes no sense to me. On the contrary, he's saying this makes sense to me and you should follow it. But I'm outside. I'm an outsider now for some reason.
So I don't know where it says it makes sense to me.
Well, no, because he's acknowledging it. Rabbi Meir, you can't go past the Tuchum.
Maybe he still has maybe he still cares for his student. Right? Maybe personally he still cares for.
If he
doesn't
thought
want
it
to
was
see
nonsense, he would be teaching it was nonsense.
Maybe. Again, but it's a complicated picture of Acher, much more complicated than it was last week. Last week was all bad. Here it is, he's still in the world of the base medrash. He's still in conversation with Meir. He's still the Rebbe. He's still sort of in the game, but not really in the game. Now
Maybe it's just Reb Meir that he has this respect for everybody
maybe it is. Right. It is kind of fun that the story begins with the horse and ends with the horse, right? So you have this nice kind of literary structure and technique that brackets both of them.
That's what's the beginning with the horse?
Well, he comes riding by the base medrash in the horse, and then at
Oh,
the
his
end,
little
yeah,
story. I
this
thought
story,
you meant his
it's
own.
packaged well and nicely, yeah.
I think his point that he kind of like still kind of believes in it. The last story he tells kind of says like I would come back if I wasn't so far up the path. Like I'm the only one who's so far that I would.
Yeah, but he's not coming back.
He's not, but not because he doesn't believe in Judaism, just because he thinks he's so gone.
Bosco's told him he's not coming back.
Right, I guess it could be.
Don't try.
It could be. Could be. I don't see it as clearly as you guys, but
Well,
certainly
and then
could be.
another story follows this story? Or is this
Yeah,
the-
we got one more.
and
and
did
that-
shed light on any of this or not?
Little bit.
So,
No, I think so. I think part of the reason the story is told like this is in purpose, right? Meaning this is a piece of literature. In addition to being stories about Acher, they could have told it more clearly. I think from the Yerushalmi jumping from A to B to C to D, right? A being how bad he was. B, he's still in the world. He's conversing with Rav Meir. He's still the master. C, why he was a heretic. And then D, the deathbed, that further goes to, is he in or is he out? What's he doing? Right? The point is we're not supposed to figure it out. The point is we're not supposed to be clear on this. It's very hard to figure out, and therefore it's written in this particular way. Right? If they wanted to be clear, the Bavli is much clearer. We'll see the Bavli. The Bavli is much clearer.
so why Rav Meir doesn't just cut ties?
Right? Well, because he didn't put a camera in the mikveh, he's just riding a horse on Shabbos. Right? Maybe he still wants
Well,
to
there
save
are
it.
other things before that you could have.
Right, again, if he really killed the children, I think this whole Gemara doesn't make any sense.
Right, so you're saying, because this one follows, clearly that's a misinterpretation of what that meant, because they still
I-
read, they didn't call him that if he was a guy who had murdered children.
I believe that, yes, correct. I can't imagine. I mean, if you're murdering young students in Torah, like,
So it means something else.
or they're just two different traditions and the Yerushalmi decided to patch them together to really confuse us. But I get me up intentionally to show you, like, who is Acher? Acher is not the foregone heretic that we think he is. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. It's hard to know.
Struggle.
Right, I mean, and it's unclear, and they do that by showing you these different sides. The confusion is part of the story, because it's part of the story of Acher. All right, so at the end of his life, this is a shorter piece, a third page. Okay, years later, so now we're just jumping to the end of his life. Elisha became sick. He came to Reb Meir and said, "Behold, your master is sick." Right, years later, he's still the master. He went desiring to visit him. He found him sick. He said to him, "Will you not repent?" Right, Reb Meir refused. Reb Meir won't give up. He's never given up. He wants, right, which is funny because where did Reb Meir learn that from? His wife. Remember the famous story with Reb Meir, where Reb Meir wanted the hooligans dead, and his wife has to come and say, "Meir, we don't want them dead. We want them to do tshuva." Right. So all the stories, they're all linked together. You just have to keep them all in your head at the same time and hope for the best. Right? So he says to him, if one repents, is it accepted? Right? Acher says to him, he says, is it not written, you return man to dust? Right? You decreed return your mortal until life is crushed. It's accepted, right? Until you become dust, there's an opportunity to do tshuva. At that point, Elisha wept and passed away and died. Reb Meir rejoiced in his heart and said, it seems that my master died repenting. Nice end to the story, sort of. Right? I mean, it actually holds out. Now, do we know if he did tshuva?
No.
We don't really know, but it sounds like it could be.
I think it's very unclear.
Feels like he won't be allowed to. Like,
Well, why is he crying?
Because
Because
he
he's so
can't,
unhappy about the fact
he
that he
can't
gets
repent.
excluded, as we just
Except
read.
that Rameir just told him that it is, and he cries. Is he crying because he can, or is he crying because he can't? Rameir clearly thinks that he did. Rameir was just a hopeful guy. Right? Maybe he's a happy, hopeful guy. After they buried him, the story's not over. Fire came down from heaven and burned his grave. They came and said to Rameir, behold, your master's grave is burning. He left his iron to visit it, found it burning. What did he do? He took his cloak and spread it upon it. He said, stay the night, stay the night. Right, in this world that is similar to night. Then in the morning, right, this is the the world to come that is completely morning. If he will redeem you good, this refers to the Holy One, blessed be he who is good. And it says, he is good to all his mercy upon all of his creatures. But if he does not want to redeem you, I will redeem you myself as God lives. And it was extinguished. Right, the fire is put out. Now that's actually kind of a cool motif because where was the fire originally? At his bris. There's a fire at the bris, and now there's once again a fire at his
His
grave.
kiva, yeah.
Right? And Rav Meir manages to get the fire extinguished. Right, now what does that mean that Rav Meir will redeem him himself? That I have no idea. That's a fascinating point. Right, that's a good question. Right? They said to Rav Meir, if you say, they say to you in that world, right, whom do you desire to visit, your father or your master? Right, you're going to get to Olam Haba and you want to see, should you meet your father? Should you meet your Rebbe? He said to them, I will approach my master and then my father. Right, those are those Mishnayos about who you return first, and first your Rebbe because he brings you to the world to come. Your father only brings you into this world, unless your Rebbe is your master. They said to him, will they listen to you? He said to them, did we not learn? They saved the casing of the scroll with the scroll, the casing of the phylacteries with the right. The mezuzah cover gets buried with the mezuzah. Little known halacha, you got to bury mezuzah covers. Tashmish kedusha. Don't throw your mezuzah covers in the garbage. Nobody knows that for whatever reason. Right? Don't throw them out. Right? It's the same exact thing as your tefillin boxes. You wouldn't throw those out. Right? They save Elisha ben Avuya for the merit of his Torah. Right now, the image that we leave the Yerushalmi with is, seems like we saved him. Now, what's fascinating is who saved them. Again, it's hard to know how this works, but who saved them, Hashem or a mayor?
It could only be Hashem.
Look in the Gemara, look in the story.
Yes,
Seems like Reb Meir.
Rameir says, I'll redeem him. I'm gonna do it.
But how does he have the power?
Well,
to
that's
do
why it's a
that?
good question, Charles. That's why it's a good question.
His original Torah redeemed.
Right at the very end,
Or he saved him by prompting
he
him to do
stayed for
tshuva.
the merit of his Torah.
That's
Right.
that's
But it's right at the end, it seems like we've managed to actually save Acher despite the heavenly voice, despite the bat call that comes out.
That's why it's Mayor who redeems him.
Yes, and not the bat call. Right,
Yeah,
with
never
that,
give
and
up.
that of course reminds, although this is a little bit different, but that's right, the story with Tanur Shalachnai, where they tell God to go back and stay in your quarters. And this is a little bit different because this is a world to come in judgment, right? But the rabbis have tremendous power. And Reb Meir manages to convince everyone the divine fire stops. He's apparently in Olam Haba. They're going to listen to him. His Torah saved him. So at the very end of our story, despite all of the bad things that he did or might have done, and the inconsistency in the questions, we leave it on a happy note.
maybe it's that, they always say you don't know if someone is good until you see his grandchildren. Like, in other words, it's what you accomplish, what you leave in this world. So maybe Rabbi Meir is his redemption. And look at what you created. You were my Rebbe, and look at what you created. Look at what you left. Look at the impact you had.
Could be.
So he's saying, I'll redeem you myself. You don't have the capacity to
Right.
literally redeem, but who you are redeeming
That-
someone. Like
Certainly,
in the Leah for someone's in a Shema.
right, certainly could be. Right, that might be the mechanism. That right could be the mechanism that Reb Meir is allowed to do it because he is the student of Acher. That's possible. But the end of the story in the Yerushalmi, and there's a little piece that I know we'll finish up next week, but this is essentially the two stories. At the end, we're back and we're forth and we're back and forth, but at the very end, we have managed to save Elisha ben Avuya. He is no longer Acher, right? He is, and again, remember this for the Babli, the very last line, and I'll read it to you in the, right? Matzilin le Elisha, right? B'schus Taraso, right? It's not Acher.
It's both.
It's both. That must be a. I wonder if that's a addition thing, like a Gersa thing. In the English, it's just Elisha. That is interesting. But again, so let's leave it here tonight. Next week, there's one more little piece about actually to his point to his kids come and want something, and we have to see how we relate to his kids. Then we have to go to the Babli and see how is the story in the Babli different, and that's when it really gets fun. But that is it, unless anyone has any questions.
Was the heavenly voice saying that Elisha could do it himself? In that sense? Don't repent because you can't do it alone.
No, it seemed to be unequivocal. It seemed to be like, you're out of here, buddy.
Paul came down, told him.
Right.
Yeah, if it's
There's no,
because
like-
you can't, it would have been.
It seemed pretty clear. That seemed pretty clear. Lots of good and fun. All right, have a good night, everybody. Next
Thank you,
week,
Rabbi.
same channel, same time. We'll see the Bob.